Hey everyone, welcome back. So in this video, I'm going to introduce a slight change to the way I've been doing things before. Before I was running an emulator, right? I was using the x86 emulator, but then we ran into problems because the Facebook APK doesn't support the x86 emulator, or the x86 emulator. And so we had to use an ARM-based emulator, which was super slow. And I'm not sure if you guys heard any background noise, but it made my computer's fan go crazy. So we're not going to do that anymore. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to do something pretty cool, or at least I'm going to do something pretty cool just to show you guys what my Android screen looks like. I'm going to record the screen of my physical device using a newly introduced ADB command called screen record. I shouldn't say it's not too new, right? It was introduced with Android 4.4, but this is kind of a big deal because it lets you record video from your Android screen directly. And this was a pretty big issue before if you ever wanted to publish your app to Google Play and then have a video description of what your app does. That used to be kind of a big hassle. But with this new functionality, it's really easy to do. You just specify the directory that you want to store your photos in with the screen record command. Okay, so let's get started. What I've done is I've already created an activity called Photos Activity, and I've specified it in the XML, in the Android manifest.xml file. I've already added in an activity node right here. Now, what I've also done is I've also created a layout for the photos. The layout, it's really simple. It just contains a list view whose ID is photos list view. In this list view, we're going to be showing all the photos that have been sent to a user. We're going to be mocking this up really simply by manually adding in rows to parse, like so. And we're just going to do it like this because it's a lot easier to debug in the future if we know where our problem is, right? So if we know that there isn't a problem with the list view or with showing videos because we've already tested it before, then it's going to be a lot easier to debug issues that might come about with push notifications or dynamically adding these photos later on. So we're going to mock it up manually right now, and in this video we're just going to show the photos that are assigned to a particular target user in a list view. Alright, so let's get started. So let's see here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run this application. Before I run, I'm going to start my screen recorder. And, oh, that's not good, right? So let's see here. I'm going to exit out of the shell. Let me try it again. ADB shell. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do screen record, SD card, and I believe the folder was Android tutorial vids, right? And then I want to call this viewphotos1.mp4, and there we go. So now this is going to run for 3 minutes, or it runs for 3 minutes by default, and or until you hit Control C. So I'm going to try to be quick with my physical device demonstrations. Okay, so I've logged in now, and let us refresh the user thing. And right, so there's only one user because that's my account. Okay, fair enough. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit View Photos, and okay, so now you can see that it launches the Photos activity, which is what we want. Okay, so I'm going to end the screen recording right here by hitting Control C. Okay, so now that I've done that, let's begin to populate this list view. So the first thing we need to do, of course, is we need to initialize Butterknife, because we do not want to do the old way of things. And so now, let's see, I need an app bind annotation. I need to bind the actual list view, and it's under photos list view, and then it's photos list view. All right, gonna pop that up there. And okay, so there we go. Now, the way list views in Android, the way they work is you need an adapter, right? So you need an adapter if you want to show anything custom. You need an adapter, and then in that adapter, you can, specify what each row should look like. So in order to do that, the first thing we need to do is we need a row layout, right? So let's call this row layout photo, and it's going to be of type relative layout. Now we need a row layout because we're going to feed this into our adapter, and then the adapter is going to populate each of these row layouts for the entire list view, right? So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to pop an image view in here. It's going to take up the entire width of the screen, and let's just give it a height of 200 dp. So let's call this photo image view. Okay, let's call this photo image view. Now, this image view, it's going to contain the actual photo we want, right? So now what we need to do is let's begin creating the adapter. Now, if you've created an adapter before, you know that the adapter usually extends the array adapter class or, some other kind of adapter class. So instead of using those adapter classes, we're going to use the newly introduced Recyclerview class. So the Recyclerview has two components. It has this card view and it has this Recyclerview library. I've already copied and pasted these guys in here, but let's see here. So the version numbers aren't quite correct. Let's give it a little bit more time, and there we go. I think we're good to go. Alright, so we have the latest support library installed. I'm going to open up my Photos activity class again, and let us create the Recyclerview. So I made a slight mistake here. Let's see here. What is going on? Okay, so I changed up the, the Gradle links for parse here. I need to undo some changes I made. So I'm just going to Control Z that right there, and let me copy these guys, and let me just Control Z all the way. What I did was I found a Gradle link, but I don't think it included all of the functionality that we want with Facebook and everything, so I'm just gonna use the .jars that we already have. And now I think we should be good. Let me open up PhotoShare. Yeah, we're good. Alright, finally. Okay, so I'm going to open up this guy right here, and we're going to make this Recyclerview. So let's see here, it's called Android. Don't remember the package that it's in by default, so we're going to have to look this up. Recyclerview Android. It takes like 2 seconds. We're just going to open this up, and it's in the Android.support library like that. Very easy. So then it's going to be Photos Recycler View, and we don't need anything after the type qualifier that we have in our naming scheme, just because we're already specifying photos right here. So then what we're going to do is we're going to make this an instance of Recyclerview. We're going to make this variable that we have up here, and Photos Recyclerview. Now, in order to use the Recyclerview, unlike a list view, we have to add this layout manager. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to add in a linear layout manager. And these are useful if you maybe want to have a grid layout on some kind of devices and then a linear layout on other devices. But for our cases, we just want a linear layout, or just a bunch of rows. So we're just gonna set it like that. And now we need an adapter. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to make a static inner class. It's going to be called Photos. Let's see here, Photos Recycler Adapter. It's going to extend or subclass Recycler. Let's see here, Recyclerview dot adapter. And so now inside of this generic type argument, we need to specify the kind of object that we want to put be able to access inside of our adapter. So what we're going to do is we need a class for photo target, right? So right now we have a class for photo, but remember in our database we have this photo target class, and the photo target class contains information for whom the photos are actually like being targeted to. So I'm going to extend parse object. I'm going to add the @parse class annotation name. It's going to reference photo target. And let's see here. So then I'm going to public parse user get target, and then we're going to return. We're going to cast it to parse user get parse. Actually, we don't even need the cast. We can just do return get parse user, and I believe, let's just double check really quickly, but it's so the column is called target, and let's just also add in a setter, even though we're probably going to use it, so we may as well just add it in right now. So then we're going to do put, we're going to do target, very simple. Now we need one more getter and setter, so this is going to return I believe a photo, actually, not a parse file. So get, let's see here, it's going to be get photo, and all we're going to do is we're just going to return get, we're going to return, let's see here, get photo. Now the cool thing is, we're just going to cast it to a photo object, because this works because every photo is a parse object, so we can easily cast it. Public void set photo, and we're going to pass in a photo instance, photo, and then we're just going to do put photo. And there we go, we're done. Alright, now let's go back to our adapter. We're going to put in photo targets like that, and now we need to implement some methods. So we're just going to let Android Studio do most of the work and let it auto-generate the methods we want. Okay, so now we have 3 methods. We have this onCreateViewholder, we have this onBindViewholder, and then we have this getItemCount method. So let's see here. So what are we missing? So the type parameter is not within its bound. It should extend. So so I know what's going on. So we're not actually going to do it quite like that. I'll get in a few videos. We might go into how we could put in the actual kind of object we want. But for Recyclerviews, what we're actually going to do is we need to pass in the Viewholder type inside of here. So if you've used like array adapters, you might be used to passing in like the kind of objects that you want to pass into that adapter. I know I'm used to that. And so you're going to put that kind of, you're going to put that class name inside of here. But with Recyclerview adapters, we're actually going to create a Viewholder instance or a Viewholder, we're going to create a Viewholder class in here. We're going to call it Viewholder. And let's see here, we want to extend Recyclerview.Viewholder. And okay, this is where the generic types become really tricky. I believe here, this is where we want to put in the type. And so, oops, let's go back. And now I'm going to, let's see, we need to add in a constructor. And, oh boy. And now we also do need to put anything in here. So we don't need to put anything in there. Let's check the documentation out real quickly. Yeah, we don't actually, there are no generic types in there. What we're going to do is we're going to put in the Viewholder instance right there. And now here we go. So then what we do is then we implement the methods again. And okay, there we go. And so what we're actually doing is we're returning the Viewholder for each row. Okay. So this begs the question. I mean, like, how do we actually pass in a data to this adapter if one, we're not specifying any kind of type information for the adapter anymore, right? So the way we do this is we actually have to create a custom constructor. So we're going to call this photos recyclers adapter, and I'm just going to get rid of that white space. And what we're going to do is we're going to store an array list of photo targets, right? So we're going to store an array list of photo targets, and we'll call this photos list. And okay, so then we have our photos list. So then we need to pass in another array list, photo target. So this array list is just going to be photos list. And so then what we're going to do is we're going to do photos list is equal to photos list. I'm going to get rid of that white space right there. I guess not. Okay, and I think we're good. We also need to call super. So if we want to look inside of here, so it looks like it doesn't even, yeah, we don't need to do that. All right, we're good. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's see, I think we've gotten past the most confusing part of setting up the recycler views. What we need to do now is we need to return the number of items in our list, right? And that's easy. It's just the size of our array list up here. And now what we need to do is we need to populate this view holder right here. So the way it works is so we have this view holder class, right? The purpose of the view holder is so we don't have to traverse the view hierarchy when we're instantiating our list view, right? So before, when you had a list view, what you would do is for each row in your list, you would need to find the views that you wanted to, you would want to find the views for which you wanted to set properties. So if you had an image view, for example, then you would need to find that image view for that row, and then you could set the kind of property that you might want to change its color or its background. That's an expensive operation because because you basically have to traverse the view hierarchy, which isn't constant time or anything. So that's an expensive operation. But if you can kind of just keep a cache inside of this view holder of those views, then you don't need to traverse the view hierarchy, and so you save processing power, and everyone is just happy with that. So what we're going to do is we're going to have this view holder, right? And it's going to contain an image view. The image view, let's just call it, so we'll call it photo image view. And so then what we're going to do is we're going to say that photo image view is equal to image view item view dot find view by id r.id photo image view, and that's it. Now let's actually just get rid of the private qualifier right there. And so now what we're going to do is, let's see here, we want to create the view holder. So the way we're going to do this is we need to inflate the layout for each row, right? So this method, it's going to be called whenever we need to inflate the layout for each row. However, that doesn't mean that it's going to be called for every time we're creating a new row. The Android, it's smart enough to call it maybe only one time whenever we actually need to create it, and then it kind of just uses it tries to be as memory friendly as possible, so it reuses the view that we inflate over here. So what we're going to do now is, let's see here, we need to use layout inflator dot from, and we need a context. So let's see here, is there a context we can use by any chance?